Part 1. Enter the shadow. How far would you go to eliminate your weakness completely, permanently, without apology? What if I told you that weakness is a choice, a habit you've rehearsed, not a fate you're forced to accept? You've been told to be kind, soft, forgiving, agreeable. But what you weren't told is that this often masks your fear of conflict, your avoidance of power, your denial of your own inner predator. You were trained to hide your strength behind politeness. But now we're going to reverse that training. This journey begins in darkness, not the darkness of evil, but the darkness of truth. The raw, unfiltered truth about human nature, power, and fear. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to comfort your soul, he wrote it to awaken your spine. He said, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." And in that one sentence, he shattered centuries of moral illusions. Because beneath our smiles and our social contracts, there's a battlefield. We try to deny this. We pretend the world is fair, that good people are rewarded, that virtue always wins. But look around. Is that what you see? Or do you see manipulation disguised as virtue, cowardice parading as humility, and weakness being celebrated as sensitivity? The truth is, we've created a culture that fears strength. We've demonized ambition. We've made power a dirty word. But Machiavelli knew the truth. Power is not evil, it's neutral. It becomes what you make of it. This video isn't about becoming cruel. It's about becoming unbreakable. Too many of us are emotionally fragile, psychologically soft, spiritually undecided. We avoid confrontation. We fear rejection. We submit to guilt. And we call this being good. But what if true strength isn't about avoiding pain, it's about dominating it? What if becoming powerful is the most moral thing you could do, because it allows you to protect what matters and destroy what doesn't? Ask yourself, how often do you say yes when you want to say no? How often do you shrink so others feel comfortable? How often do you hide your ambition, your intensity, your hunger just to fit in? That is weakness. That is self-betrayal. And if you don't kill it, it will kill your potential.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Machiavelli understood that the world is not ruled by saints, it's ruled by strategists. He wrote, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration." This means most people won't see your intentions. They'll only see what you project. If you project softness, they will test you. If you project uncertainty, they will ignore you. If you project strength, they will respect you even if they fear you. Let that sink in. Respect begins where weakness ends. If you want to be truly respected, not pitied, not tolerated, but respected, you must become someone who is not easily shaken. Someone who does not flinch under pressure. Someone who does not apologize for taking up space. But how do we do that? How do we erase weakness at its root? It begins by confronting the part of you that you've been taught to suppress, the shadow. Carl Jung, the great psychologist, said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your shadow is your repressed power, your hidden rage, your unspoken truth. It is the lion you've caged in order to be liked. And now, it's time to set it free. This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming who you were before they told you to sit down, be quiet, and obey. Children are not born weak. They are taught submission. They are taught to fear their own voice. But you can unlearn it. You can rewire your psychology to embrace power without becoming corrupt. That's the Machiavellian paradox. You must become dangerous not to harm, but to protect. Not to manipulate, but to command. When you are capable of violence but choose discipline, you are powerful. When you can dominate but choose mastery, you are wise. The weak man cannot be virtuous because he has no choice. The strong man who chooses restraint, he is the one who changes history. So here's your first exercise. Stop apologizing for your presence. Walk into every room like you belong, not because you're arrogant, but because you've prepared yourself psychologically to own your space. Stop seeking permission. Start commanding attention. Not with noise, but with energy, with focus, with embodied certainty. Most people walk through life with their shoulders slumped and their heads down. They speak too softly. They doubt too loudly. And the world treats them accordingly. But Machiavelli would tell you, a prince must learn to act like both a lion and a fox. The lion is force. The fox is strategy. You need both. One without the other is incomplete. You must become unpredictable. That's how you avoid being controlled. Predictable people are easy targets. They're emotionally reactive. They're easy to guilt, easy to manipulate. But if you train yourself to be mentally still, emotionally detached, strategically focused, you become untouchable. You stop reacting. You start calculating. Think about the last time you were manipulated. What weakness did they exploit? Was it your need to be liked? Your fear of rejection? Your guilt? Now imagine what would have happened if that weakness didn't exist. That's what this video is about, building a mind that cannot be exploited. This is not philosophy for the faint of heart. This is psychological warfare against your own conditioning. And like any war, you must train, daily, relentlessly. You must examine every thought, every fear, every automatic behavior. You must ask yourself, does this make me weaker or stronger? And if it makes you weaker, you must destroy it. Machiavelli wouldn't have coddled you. He wouldn't have told you to meditate your problems away. He would have told you to win. To study your enemies. You understand human nature so deeply that no one could ever play you again. He would have told you to stop being idealistic and start being effective. That's your mission now, not to be nice, but to be powerful and principled. Not to please everyone, but to master yourself. Not to avoid offense, but to become immune to it. Because when you are immune to offense, you are free. And freedom is the ultimate strength. Let's get even more tactical. Begin practicing deliberate discomfort. Say no when you want to say yes, just to feel the resistance. Hold eye contact longer than is polite. Speak slower and pause more often. These small acts retrain your nervous system to stop associating power with danger. They teach your body that it's safe to be strong. Weakness is not just a feeling, it's a habit. It's in the way you talk, walk, breathe, respond. But habits can be broken, and the fastest way to break a habit is to replace it with a more powerful one. For every moment of submission, create a moment of assertion. For every second of doubt, create a second of decision. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be respected. Admiration fades. Respect endures. And respect is built on strength, not just physical strength, but emotional and intellectual sovereignty. When you can stand alone, think clearly, act decisively, you become dangerous. And in a world that feeds on weakness, being dangerous is a virtue. Let me ask you one final question before we continue. Who would you be if you were no longer afraid? Really think about that. Would you speak differently? Would you walk differently? Would you make different choices? That person, that fearless version of you, is not a fantasy. It's your birthright, and we're going to reclaim it. Part 2, the weapon of perception. What if I told you that most of your weakness isn't physical, emotional, or even mental, but perceptual? That your entire sense of limitation is built on how you've been conditioned to see yourself. You were not born weak. You were taught to interpret your strength as aggression, your ambition as arrogance, your decisiveness as cruelty. You internalize those labels, and now you hesitate when you should act. But Machiavelli saw through all of this. He knew that perception, how others see you and how you see yourself, is the most powerful weapon in the game of life. Niccolo Machiavelli said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." That truth is the foundation of strategic power. You must become a master of appearances, not because you're fake, but because you understand that reality is filtered through perception. We do not act based on truth. We act based on what we believe is true. And if you control the belief, you control the behavior. Most people never stop to ask, who taught me how to see myself? Was it your parents? Your school? A moment of shame when you were young? We are shaped by authority until we become our own authority. But until that shift happens, we wear chains that look like personality traits. You were told you were shy, so you became shy. You were told you were too much, so you became quiet. That's not identity. That's conditioning. So let's ask the deeper question. What if your weakness is just a misunderstanding of your power? What if you've been misinterpreting confidence as arrogance, intensity as danger, and ambition as selfishness? This is how cultures domesticate the strong. They redefine strength as a threat, so the masses remain controllable. But Machiavelli would tell you, the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. You must become both. Not just outwardly, but inwardly. You must learn to see everything, every conversation, every decision, every dynamic as a power structure. This doesn't mean you become paranoid. It means you become clear. You stop assuming people have your best interest at heart. You stop giving away your energy unconsciously. You start asking the real questions. What do they want? What am I allowing? What am I projecting? This is the beginning of psychological sovereignty. When you own your perception, you become immune to manipulation. People can say what they want, but you decide what it means. That is real strength. That is invincibility. Because weakness isn't just being overpowered. It's being unaware. It's not knowing the game you're in. Let's talk about the game. Life is not a utopia. It is not fair. It is not just. It is a battlefield of interests, driven by emotion, masked by reason. The sooner you accept this, the sooner you can thrive. Machiavelli didn't sugarcoat this truth. He embraced it. He wrote, "Politics have no relation to morals." And while that may sound cold, it's also strangely freeing. Because once you stop expecting the world to be fair, you start playing it wisely. You stop being surprised when people betray you. You stop being outraged when systems fail you. You stop depending on others for your stability. Instead, you learn to observe. You learn to calculate. You learn to move in silence. Weakness shrinks in the presence of awareness. This brings us to the next principle, strategic invisibility. Not every battle is won by confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful move is to disappear, to become untrackable, unpredictable. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He advised rulers to hide their intentions, to never reveal their full hand. Why? Because predictability is vulnerability. The more people know about you, the easier it is to control you. So how do you cultivate mystery? Start by controlling your speech. Speak less than you feel. Reveal less than you know. Let your actions speak. Let your silence become a mirror in which others reveal themselves. Most people overshare because they crave validation. But you must train yourself to be comfortable with being misunderstood. Why? Because when you no longer fear being misunderstood, you become untouchable. People's opinions lose their power. Gossip becomes noise. Criticism becomes data. And in that space, you become focused not on approval, but on outcome. This is the mindset of a strategist. And strategy is the death of weakness. Now let's get practical. Every day, you're faced with micro decisions that either reinforce your strength or your weakness. How you answer a message, how you react to disrespect, how you carry your body. These are not small things. These are rituals, and rituals shape reality. Start walking with your chest open and your eyes steady. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't speak quickly to fill silence. Don't laugh to soften truth. Every time you choose presence over performance, you build psychological muscle. And every time you betray yourself to avoid conflict, you weaken. But here's the key. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to who you were before fear took over, before shame rewired your nervous system, before the world taught you to dim your own light. That version of you is still there, buried under layers of politeness, guilt, and confusion. It's time to dig. The Stoics had a phrase, live according to nature. But to do that, you must first uncover your true nature, not the socially acceptable version, but the raw, primal force inside you. The part that knows what it wants. The part that doesn't need permission. The part that's not afraid to stand alone. This is not about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about reclaiming your edge. The edge that makes you say no with clarity. The edge that makes you walk away without explanation. The edge that makes you dangerous not to others, but to anything that tries to silence your truth. Let's go even deeper. Every time you hesitate to assert yourself, what are you afraid of? Trace that fear. Follow it all the way down. Is it fear of rejection? Of abandonment? Of being seen as too much? Now ask yourself, who gave you that fear? Who planted that idea that your full self is a threat? You must return that fear. It's not yours. It was never yours. You inherited it from a culture that fears power, from parents who feared judgment, from peers who projected their own insecurity. But now you see through it. Now you take your power back not by fighting, but by refusing to flinch. Because here's the secret: power isn't about domination. It's about direction. It's about deciding where your energy goes, who gets your attention, what thoughts you entertain, what behaviors you reward. Weakness is scattered energy. Strength is focused fire. So here's your task: eliminate the unnecessary. Cut off anything that makes you small. Habits, people, beliefs. Stop negotiating with what drains you. Stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand. You don't owe the world your softness. You owe yourself your sovereignty. Machiavelli said, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." So look around. Who surrounds you? Who reflects your strength and who reflects your fear? Your environment is either reinforcing your power or sedating it. Choose wisely. And above all, remember this: you are not here to survive. You are here to ascend, to rise above the noise, to become the kind of person who cannot be ignored. Not because you're loud, but because your presence speaks before you ever open your mouth. You don't need to prove yourself. You need to know yourself. And when you do, the world will reorganize around your certainty. People will feel it before you say a word, because the strongest energy always wins. And your weakness? It's already trembling. Part 3. Master of the Inner Throne. Now we enter the deepest layer of your transformation, the final purge of weakness. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about reclaiming the throne inside you that you abandoned long ago. The world told you to bow to fear, to compromise your truth, to keep your ambition quiet. But Machiavelli would say, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. You don't wait to become powerful. You decide to be. Power is not given. It is seized. And the greatest throne you'll ever conquer is your own mind. That's where your weakness lives, and that's where it must be destroyed. For too long, you've allowed your inner world to be ruled by doubt, guilt, fear, and hesitation. These are not just emotions. They are internal regimes. And every day you delay overthrowing them, they grow stronger. Let's speak plainly. The war is inside. The enemy is not the world, it's your inability to command yourself. The man who cannot rule himself will be ruled by everything else: opinions, trends, noise, manipulation. But the man who sits firmly on the throne of his own mind becomes untouchable. He cannot be baited. He cannot be broken, because he has already faced his demons and won. This is where most people fail. They try to change their life without mastering their inner world. They chase power without building discipline. They seek respect without earning self-respect. But Machiavelli knew, he who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. And that begins with self-command. If your thoughts control you, you are weak. If you control your thoughts, you are free. So how do we do it? How do we seize the throne of our psyche? First, silence. Not passive silence, but strategic silence. You must learn to sit with yourself without distraction. No phone, no stimulation, just you and the raw noise of your mind. Most people run from this. They sedate themselves with dopamine. But you will sit in the fire. Because only in silence do you hear the voice of the king within. Second, clarity. Weakness thrives in confusion. If you don't know what you want, every distraction will seem important. If you don't know your values, every temptation will seem reasonable. Clarity is a weapon. It cuts through excuses. It turns chaos into order. So write it down. Who are you becoming? What do you refuse to tolerate? What do you stand for, no matter the cost? Third, ritual. Power is not built in moments of inspiration. It is forged in repetition, daily discipline, daily decisions, daily defiance of your lesser self. You must create rituals of mental warfare. Wake early, speak with precision, train your body, read the masters, demand excellence from yourself, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. Fourth, boundaries. Weakness leaks. It bleeds out through poor boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. You must become ruthless about your time, your attention, your focus. Say no without guilt. Walk away without explanation. Cut ties with anything that dilutes your power. This is not cruelty. This is self-respect. Machiavelli said, "A wise ruler ought never to keep faith when by doing so it would be against his interests." Apply this to your inner world. If a thought, habit, or belief betrays your strength, break the pact. Fifth, embodiment. Power is not just mental, it is physical, energetic, spiritual. You must embody your strength. Walk like someone who cannot be broken. Speak like someone who has nothing to prove. Hold eye contact like someone who sees through the mask. When your body aligns with your mind, your presence becomes a message. You no longer need to convince. You are the evidence. But here is where it gets even deeper. To truly erase your weakness, you must integrate your darkness. The parts of you that you've disowned, the rage, the desire, the ambition, the lust for dominance, these are not flaws. They are fuel. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Your shadow contains the energy you need to rise. You were told to suppress your darkness. But suppression breeds chaos. Integration breeds mastery. You must bring your shadow into the light, not to shame it, but to harness it. The warrior in you, the king in you, the predator in you. These are not your enemies. They are your generals. Learn to direct them, and you become unstoppable. Ask yourself, what have I been afraid to express? What am I hiding from the world and from myself? Where in my life am I playing small to stay safe? These are not casual questions. These are the keys to the dungeon where your power is imprisoned, and only you hold the key. Machiavelli didn't believe in passive virtue. He believed in strategic virtue. He said, "A man who wishes to make a vocation of being good at all times will come to ruin among so many who are not good." This means you must be good by choice, not by default. You must be capable of evil but choose discipline, capable of vengeance but choose justice, capable of destruction but choose creation. This is real mastery, not the denial of power, but the control of it. And this control makes you magnetic. People feel it. They don't know why they respect you, but they do. They sense your depth, your gravity, your centeredness. That is not charisma. That is command. Now, let's talk about legacy. Why does this matter? Why should you care about becoming powerful? Because the world is shaped by those who refuse to be weak. Every great movement, every revolution, every transformation was led by someone who chose strength over comfort. And your life is no different. You are not here to be a spectator. You are here to build the future starting with yourself. Your weakness has been a lie you've repeated until it became familiar. But now, the lie is dead, and in its place stands something terrifying and beautiful: choice. You get to choose who you become. No more blaming. No more waiting. No more hoping. Only choosing. And that choice, repeated daily, becomes destiny. So here's your final instruction. Embrace the throne. Not as a fantasy, not as a metaphor, but as a lived truth. You are the ruler of your life, the king, the queen, the sovereign. Sit on the throne of your mind and govern with precision. Guard your thoughts, direct your emotions, command your actions, rule your world. There will be moments when fear returns, when doubt whispers, when weakness tries to sneak back in. Stand firm. Remember who you are. Remember what you've built. And say to the darkness, with fire in your voice, "You serve me now." That is the Machiavellian way, not cruelty, not manipulation, but strategy, sovereignty, strength. And now it is yours. This video will erase your weakness, but only if you let it. Only if you choose to rise. So the final question is this: will you?